It's that time of the week again. It's time I tell you what we learnt from the weekend just gone in the Championship. Let's go. So it finishes Sunderland 1, Burnley 0. Let's begin with the home side. The winning side, Sunderland, their XG was 1.66. And the biggest thing I learnt from this game is just how hard-working you have to be to successfully play in this Black Cats team right now. You can have all of the technical ability in the world, and believe me, there's plenty in this squad, but running the hard miles is a non-negotiable. We saw last week how effective the Reggie Labrie 1v1 press is. Go and watch that full breakdown. We dissect it in detail, and it was the same again yesterday. Don't let the opposition breathe and get at them early, metaphorically. Now, the intensity of the Sunderland press is fantastic, we know that, but what I found so interesting when delving into the details of this game is that two players of the top three dual winners from this game were Sunderland's two wide men, Patrick Roberts and Romain Mundle. For context, they won more duels than three of Burnley's back four combined. I think we've learnt with Reggie since he's come in at Sunderland is he wants as much action in the wide areas as possible. That's offensively and defensively too. This isn't just reflected through the eye test and the exceptionally well-rounded numbers being racked up by Sunderland wingers and fullbacks, but also this graphic as well. This graphic shows us the concentration of Sunderland's play. The darker the shade of green, the higher concentration. The flanks are clearly visualised as Sunderland's preferred areas to play. That's both to attack and also to regain possession of the ball. To show you individually what these defensive actions look like, where they are, and importantly the sheer amount of them, these two graphics show us every defensive action that Roberts and Mundle were involved in during the game yesterday. Together they were involved in 29 actions, with 11 of them happening in the opposition half. When it comes to the old favourite ball recoveries, the little grey circles on this graphic in front of you, the pair accumulated 12 between them. Now it's okay me throw this information at you, but basically this does show us how integral hard-working wide players are in a Reggie system. And although they'll be lauded for their goal contributions, they play a crucial role in that work against the ball so that they can, ironically in this game, finish the chances themselves too. As for Burnley, their XG was 0.13. Now it would be so easy for me to come here and rip this Burnley performance to shreds. It's the roundup. We analyse games of football, and quite frankly, that performance from Burnley was terrible. But there's far more at play here. The biggest thing we learned about Burnley is their lack of cohesion during what looks like a late fire sale is an understandable issue and is causing them huge problems right now. I mean, sometimes average positions can be misleading, but look at the state of that. It screams of a team just lacking definitive roles, and realistically, with players being sold every hour of the day, what is Scott Parker meant to do, and how can he set up a team? The away side accumulated the lowest XG of the weekend, having to wait until the 86th minutes for their first shot on target. That came from outside the area and was worth a total XG of 0.01. It was understandably pretty dismal. Burnley, you've got to stop selling your players. Blackburn 2, Oxford United 1. Let's, as always, start with the winning side. Blackburn, in this case, 0.82 was their expected goals. And the biggest thing we learnt about Blackburn is how better they looked in the second half and the impact of the substitutions. Congratulations, John Eustace. Sometimes we don't give managers enough credit when they make the right calls, and he did make the right call by bringing on both Sigurdsson and Gehi, who combined for the winning goal. We'll break down that goal in particular in a moment, because defensively, I've got my issues. Oxford, it was avoidable, to say the least, but the duo gave Blackburn a refreshment going forward and forced Oxford to make different decisions and quicker, and that's where I think the game changed. This graph shows the sheer improvement of Blackburn in the second half, but also shows the success in limiting Oxford to very minimal opportunities. The home side doubled Oxford's touches inside the opposition box in the second half, with 8 of their 9 efforts on goal coming inside Oxford's area after the break. As for Oxford, their XG was slightly higher, 0.89. I think the phrase I'd use to describe that Oxford performance is stuck in two minds. And the one thing you can't be at top-level sports is stuck in two minds. The composure of Elliot Moore and Cameron Brannigan was so greatly missed. And when you are deciding whether to stick or twist in a game, you can really see how important those characters are. The decision-making fell off, and I think the best way of showing you this is by breaking down Blackburn's winning goal and explaining how Oxford looked really quite unsettled and uncomfortable in that moment. It needed punchy, committed decision-making, and I don't think we saw much of that at all. And I think this is the screenshot that defines stuck in two minds and not being punchy and committed with that decision-making. Because Kyoso, who is Oxford United's right back here, is very literally stuck in two minds. He is stuck as to what to do. Sam Long is telling him to get into this position here to stop that run that Gay's about to make and try and, again, stop him from running into acres of room that he's got here. But he doesn't. He stops. He's waiting. The ball is very, very quickly transitioned from a tackle that Volks has tried to make around this point of the pitch. He's taken 6 players out of the game. But this is the problem. This is the issue that Oxford had when it comes to decision making and not knowing when to stick or twist and make the right call at the right time. And like I say, it's not punchy. It's not fully committed, because this position that Will Volks is in here, he's not committed. He's committed to nothing. He's committed to the space that he's in, but that's literally all it is. And that is what I mean when I come back to the idea that Oxford just didn't know what to do in that second half at all times, and in the key moments didn't know what to do. And in the Championship, unlike League One maybe, you can't get away with it. Middlesbrough 2, Portsmouth 2. Let's start with the home side. Middlesbrough, their XG was 2.9. I think we learnt with Borough the only thing they're shooting is their own foot. We can dive into the nuanced tactical details forever, but the bottom line is sometimes the simple stuff can tell a large chunk of the story. Their hideous conversion rate in front of goal mixed with the shambolic defensive mistakes are going to make it really hard to win football matches. And right now it's making it really hard for them to win football matches. Take a look at the Middlesbrough shot maps from the opening 3 games. Don't bother counting, I can tell you. That's 67 shots in front of you. Only 15 on target, interestingly, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. And a total XG of 7.3, which is currently the highest in the Championship. But worse than all of that, they still have an open play conversion rate of 0%. They are yet to score a goal from open play. That's frustrating, and there's that. Of course, the positive is that chances are there, and the opportunities are being created, but I do think a shots to shots on target percentage of just 22% is quite low, and suggests that the quality of those shots aren't quite as threatening as they could be. But it's 67 shots, lads. It's 67. You should still be converting more than nothing from open play with that amount of efforts towards goal. And what's more frustrating than missing chances? Giving chances. The first goal starts with some fantastic link-up play from Christian Sadie to lay it off out wide, and then Middlesbrough seem to think he's not on the pitch. It's well worked from Swanson. Sadie carries on his run through the centre, completely unmarked, and scores. The second is absolutely hideous. Sadie wins the initial duel well against Luke Ayling, and then lets the rest of the Borough team do the work for him. Again, so avoidable. It's the basics that are letting Middlesbrough down so far this season. It's actually the complicated stuff they're finding quite straightforward. POMPEY, their XG was 1.05. Now, if I told you that Portsmouth were the team in blue for both of these graphs, you'd expect 2 defeats, probably. Normally, a team would find it very hard to withstand that amount of pressure over 180 minutes of football, but these are both of POMPEY's game state graphs from the opening games on the road, and they haven't lost either of them. I spoke in the first roundup of the season about not knowing a better team to pounce on defining moments within games, and once again, yesterday, we're speaking about Portsmouth being so brilliant offensively in split seconds. They've had the second lowest touches inside the opposition box, the second highest XG conceded, but have scored every single big chance that they've created, outscoring their XG by 2.1. Now, obviously, running that hot isn't sustainable. They won't score every big chance that they create, but with such depleted, injury-ridden, light squad, it's not meant to be the approach, and that's important to mention. It won't be, in the long term, the way forward, but it's a bloody good way of looking at the time being. Away at Leeds, away at Middlesbrough, at home to recently relegated Luton. Not to lose. I think if we're looking at short-term approaches, this is a bloody good one. In the Yorkshire derby, it finishes Sheffield Wednesday 0, Leeds 2. Let's start with Leeds United, the winning side. Their XG 1.19. This is the moment Leeds fans have been waiting for all season. One of, if not the best ball carriers in the Championship in Willie Gnonto, with that much space. Totally free is both a huge concern for Sheffield Wednesday, but absolutely mouthwatering if you're associated with Leeds United. This new role that I think we learned so much more about on Friday night has been seen in glimpses so far this season, but absolutely came to life at Hillsborough and added a sensational fluidity to any Leeds attacking play. The average positions of Leeds show a clear 3-5-2 in possession, with Junior Firpo, who I thought was fantastic on Friday, by the way, stretching the play on the left, allowing Gnonto to drift inside, create a numerical advantage in the middle, and cause havoc on Sheffield Wednesday in central areas throughout. Now, quickly, while we're on the topic of fluidity and the positional aspects of Leeds, this is their pass map, including the average positions from the night itself. As always, the eye test is paramount, but the data graphics also back my findings up. The tight-knit triangle of Gruev, Gnonto and Firpo on the left was intentional. It kept the fluidity that Leeds wanted to maintain with multiple passing options in build-up, but also made it very difficult for Sheffield Wednesday to spring their brave press that Daniel Farke clearly knew all about. The opposite happened on the right, with Aronson playing extremely advanced and Bogle on slightly more defensive duties. It allowed Daniel James to operate as a more traditional winger and use his lightning pace in behind. As we know, the second goal came from exactly that, a break-up play in the deeper area of the pitch and a brilliant pass to James, who speeds into the distance. Right, back to Willy Gnonto. These are two of his personal heat maps from this season. The one on the left is from the game against Portsmouth on the opening day, and the one on the right is from Friday, and they have some really important differences. Against Pompey, the majority of his touches came in wider areas, very rarely coming to collect the ball in his own half. However, against Wednesday, we see him operating much further inside, staying in and around the centre circle, and this time looking to receive the ball from much deeper areas. His change in involvement is also reflected with his significant increase in touches. On Friday, he accumulated 69 touches, 25 more than the game against Pompey, and 30 more than his average per 90 across all of last season. This new inverted role may just look like a simple switch inside for Gnonto this season, but I promise you it's more than that, and the impact of this tactical change could be season defining, and already is looking like a terrifying weapon that Leeds can pull out at any point. The second thing we learnt about Leeds is their ability to not just control games, but dominate them too. Now, while you look at the graph here, let me tell you the important difference between domination and control, because they can easily be seen as the same thing, and they're not. In fact, I was going to say I'm going to explain it. I'm not. This is Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta explaining the difference between control and domination.
Yeah, control is not really a word that I like. I like dominance and don't allow any teams to breathe more than control, and especially in which part of the pitch that happens. That's the most important thing in my opinion.
Arteta there is basically saying that dominance is about sheer excellence over the opposition. That's chance creation, shots on goal, for example, whereas control is a nuanced management that can sometimes lead to having possession for possession's sake in less threatening areas of the pitch. This graphic is a control map, and it's made by the brilliant people at YT Analysis, and it essentially visualises where specific players have the most successful actions across every zone of the pitch. It's not rocket science to point out there's more yellow than blue. In fact, 31% of the pitch wasn't occupied by a Leeds player on Friday night. It's very yellow. Leeds had 69% of the ball against Sheffield Wednesday, but importantly completed 237 passes inside the opposition half, ensuring they had purposeful control and threatening dominance. Not many teams will do that at Hillsborough this season. I can tell you that now. As for Sheffield Wednesday, their XG was 0.43. I think the biggest takeaway for Sheffield Wednesday in this game is their decision to not tweak their original approach against higher quality opposition could continue to cause vulnerability. Now, by no means am I saying Danny Röhl should compromise dramatically his principles, and of course he's not watching, so he's not going to do that, but it does also mean that if you're not perfect in that brave press or slightly sloppy in building from the back, these consequences will occur. As Jack Hancock said to me during the writing of this video, so much of an ethos is about intention and commitment. Any approach is generally fine, but half-arsed, or in this case, mistake-riddled anything, and it can all fall apart. And the first goal is an example of just that, when Wednesday's disorganised press allows Leeds to cut them open comfortably and gives Gnonto eventually that much room we showed you in the screenshot earlier. Now, this example doesn't lead to a goal, but it does show us how three separate Wednesday mistakes in their press can lead to the ball starting in the opponent's half and ending up in their own box within just 8 seconds. Firpo has seen the space in the middle of the pitch and inverted inside to receive the ball unmarked. Bannon is now left as the only Wednesday player in the middle, but knows Gnonto is behind him. Valery is concentrating on Aronson, which leaves only the right-sided centre-back to intervene. And this next screenshot shows Iorfa doing just that. He steps up and tenaciously tries to win the ball, but he doesn't. And now Wednesday are all at sea. Bannon then does get involved and also mistimes his challenge, and now the overloads on that right-hand side are everywhere. James has a shot from inside the area. It's well saved from James Beadle. It might not lead to a goal, but it does show us how poor team and individual decision-making can lead to a serious threat on goal. It's a brave, high-intensity style that comes with so many exciting rewards, but this is top-level sport, and as the old saying goes, high rewards normally comes hand in hand with high risk.